Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. So, I might be getting ahead of myself. Maybe we'll do one thing today, one thing tomorrow, another thing the next day. But here's what I'd like to get accomplished, let's just say, in the near future. We got to do the recap, and we're obviously not going to do the here's the sunshine and rainbows recap like last week, which maybe that's my fault. Maybe I cursed the frickin' team by only highlighting the positive, and the football gods are like, well, then now you're going to lose because you shouldn't do that. I don't know. I don't really know the rules. To be honest, I don't have a rule book on all the curses. I just try to avoid them as best as I can. We'll make sure we never do that again. Here's another thing. You may have noticed I tend to get very, 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 very annoyed when people make assertions, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. Assertions, I don't know if you know this, they don't have a lot of value. I make assertions sometimes, and I try to make it known that I'm just saying stuff. I don't know that it's true, but this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. It's a big difference between an assertion and actually doing hard work to back up that assertion or to demonstrate how I came to a concrete conclusion. A conclusion and an assertion being the same thing is a bad thing. When all you've done is make a claim wildly out of the air based on how we're feeling, and that's also my concrete conclusion, not a good thing. It's okay to have a theory, and then what should follow a theory is to actually do some work to decide whether or not that's true, or better than even forming a theory is to just generate a question and then investigate the question. And then after thorough investigation, that's when your conclusions come out. But since we don't want to do that, and since I'm seeing a lot of whining and complaining and just making up crap, I want to actually go back and analyze a lot of these things and decide what exactly happened and why. And I know I said I have no intention of going back and looking at this game, but I tell you what, that's the exact opposite of what's going to happen. We're going to look at, as far as I'm concerned, every single play, at least on offense. Every single one. So make sure that you get all your claims in, make sure everything that you think, throw it in there, because I'm actually going to go look and see what exactly happened and why. And I've already done this in large part, but we'll go through whenever, again, maybe it won't get there today because we got the PFF stat day today. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's absolutely what we're going to do, if not today, tomorrow, and probably the day after. Because at the very least, I intend to look at all the passing plays. And let me just cut to the chase about the main reason why I want to do that. A lot of you are probably thinking it's just because I want to throw Jordan Love under the bus. No, that's not the only reason. It's definitely a reason. Because that dude gets way too much credit for playing horribly. The main reason is the constant assumption that every single thing that happened is exactly what was designed to happen. And I don't know why people think that. It absolutely annoys the living crap out of me. So we're going to look at every single thing that was done, and then look at all the other options that were available and see what we come back with. All right? Because I'm absolutely tired of saying the same thing over and 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 over again. And everybody just keeps saying the same crap. It's driving me nuts. Why do we keep dialing up deep shots on third down? First of all, is that even true? Because I don't think it is. In fact, I know that it isn't because I went back and looked at it. It's almost never true. But nobody knows that because we based everything that we know based on our frustrations and emotions and everything, and that's what we come back with. But number two, what do you mean dialing up? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. You mean like there was one guy that ran a route and that was it? Because if that's not what you mean, then what did everybody else run? I'm just curious. Do you know? Do you have any idea? Do you care? Or is it just Jordan Love threw a deep pass, so Matt LaFleur is an idiot? Is that the conclusion? Okay. Anyways, we'll wait up. Very excited about that, if you can't tell. Very excited. But let's do the super fun stuff. And again, the PFF thing is going to be weird, and they did do a lot of changes. On this. Edgerrin Cooper was an 80.0, which is a pretty big downgrade. A lot of guys on offense changed around as well. A lot of them downgraded. Well, you got to make a decision because there are 5 guys that were graded in the 70s on offense. 0 of them were graded in the 70s until the fourth quarter, halfway through the fourth quarter, whatever it is. So up to you. If you're happy with it, you're happy with it. I'm still torn on whether or not we should just take it as a victory or look at it and say, nah, screw you. You didn't show up for 3.5 quarters. You get no credit. You know what? Let's do special teams. Why not? Let's start with special teams. 2 guys graded out positively. Zane Anderson, obviously. Of course, he got hurt, though. And then Kingsley and Igbare, well done. On the negative side, below a 55, Aaron Mosby and Bo Melton. In the 40s, Carrington Valentine. And in the 30s, Matt Orzich, because of course. What is he doing, by the way? I don't know what he's doing. I mean, what is the grading system? Is it just like, is it skipping across the ground or something? I don't know what he's doing, but whatever he's doing, the people that grade long snappers are like, this guy's garbage. And then Carl Brooks with a 36.4. Everybody else did fantastic. I mean, the punting was really good. The kicking was immaculate. On offense, though, honestly, I think a lot of these have been upgraded on offense, which is kind of crazy. Below a 55, just 3, and really kind of just 2. Ben Sims was a 54.5. We can call that a 55, which is roughly average. The only 2 negative, Luke Musgrave, which I'm not super mad about. It's his first game back, and he still hasn't played, or his second game back, but first game where he played more than like 5 snaps, and only played 8 snaps. So the only guy that actually started, that which would include Ben Sims and also Chris Brooks, who was the next lowest, the only starter that actually graded out quite poorly was Jaden Reed with a 46.1. Whole bunch of average, and then we got 5 guys in the 4 guys in the low 70s, 1 in the mid 70s. Elton Jenkins, 71. Again, not until later, but 71. Zach Tom, same thing, 71. Josh Jacobs, 72. Jordan Love, 72. And then Romeo Dobbs, 77. Now, that was a incredible comeback. And Romeo, Jordan, probably Jacobs, probably Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins played a huge part in that. In fact, Emmanuel Wilson, they actually downgraded because he was one of the guys that was in the 70s because he had a really good stretch at the end there. They said, never mind, and downgraded him down to a 67. But I'll let you decide. Do whatever you want. You're thrilled, you're upset, you're satisfied, you're not. That's up to you. Let's look at Jordan Love a little bit here. Man, he must have just, I got to look at it. He must have carved it up because his stats were so, I mean, the stats still are not great, but I mean, as far as completion percentage, wasn't it in like the 40s? He ended with 19 of 30, which is 63%, which is actually quite good. 185 yards, which obviously is terrible. 6.2 yards per attempt is not good. 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 0 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays. I think both of those things are probably pretty accurate. I didn't see a single big-time throw. I also don't remember him putting it in harm's way at all, which I guess we could say is a good thing. In fact, he was maybe a little overcautious because I remember our wide receivers, who I'm not letting off the hook, they didn't play well, but our wide receivers, I feel like, were diving for every single pass. So Jordan making sure to keep it as far away from defenders as possible. His adjusted completion percentage was 71.4%. There was, this is going to super tick you off, according to PFF, 1 drop. Again, a lot of these are iffy, and I'm sure they put a lot of the stuff on the quarterback, although they graded them out pretty well, so I don't know. Who knows how they come up with their stupid nonsense. We'll see what NFL Pro has to say. Everybody's got their own number. Could even go over to FTN, see if they have theirs up. Time to throw is 2.7 seconds, 91.7 passer rating. As far as the pressure is concerned, when he was kept clean, 16 of 22, which is 73%, 148 yards and a touchdown. When under pressure, which was 34%, which is relatively high, but because there weren't a ton of attempts, we're only talking 8 of his passes. He completed 3 of those 8 for 37 yards, and that's it. I swear did they change how this works? I'm not seeing the blitzing anymore. Oh, here we go. When blitzed. When not blitzed, 87 PFF grade. He was 6 of 9, 71 yards. When blitzed, so and this is a nod to the offensive line, he was blitzed 75% of the time and only pressured 34%, which seems high until you factor in he was blitzed 74% of the time. So even I have to, again, what did I say? well, the offensive line couldn't block anymore. They couldn't pick anything up. Well, not necessarily true. 74% is crazy. He was 13 of 21, 114 yards and a touchdown when blitzed. 60 PFF grade. As far as the receiving grades go, pretty similar to overall grades. It runs pretty much identical to the overall. 75 for Romeo Doubs. He was the highest graded. Then Tucker Kraft, 66. Malik Heath, 66. Bo Melton, 65. Wicks, 64. Musgrave, 55. Jaden Reed, 45. The one drop was credited to Jaden Reed. That one was pretty easy to remember coming across the middle. And even that one, I'll even cut Jordan some slack because that one Jaden did have to dive for. If you go back and watch that one, if you happen to find it again, I'm pretty sure Jaden Reed put a little stutter step in there for some random reason. Like he kind of like stopped and then went again. I think if he continues full speed, I don't know that he has to dive for that. Could be wrong, but either way, it was a drop. Although I'm just thinking back on like other dropped passes that they're not calling a drop. I don't remember any others, but what about the frickin' Romeo Doubs? Are they saying that was a bad pass? I don't know. I gotta go back and see it again. I don't remember. As far as I can remember, he had his whole body cradling that thing and didn't come down. Yards per out run, not one of them was over 2 yards. The highest, Romeo Doubs, 1.87 yards. Longest reception was Tucker Kraft, 35 yards. Contested catch rate, Bo Melton was actually 2 for 2, 100%. Malik Heath was 1 for 1, 100%. Xantavian Wicks was 100%. Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs were both 0 for 1. So even the idea that like the receivers weren't really gutting it out, not really true. I mean, there were Bo, Malik, and Xantavian Wicks got 100% of their 50-50 ball. The team as a whole was 4 of 6. Only one missed tackle forced. That was obviously Tucker Kraft. First downs, there were 11. 5 of them came from Romeo Doubs, probably all of them on that final drive. Kraft and Wicks had 2. Malik and Bo had 1. Musgrave and Jaden Reed with 0 passer rating when targeted. The highest was Malik Heath with a 118.8. Tucker, 110. Wicks, 102.5. And then all down from there, down to Jaden Reed at a 39.6. Rushing grades. Josh Jacobs with a 72 rushing grade. He had 69 yards, 4.1 yards per attempt, a touchdown, and a fumble. 72 is pretty impressive when you have a fumble included. 3.18 yards after contact per attempt. 2 missed tackles forced. His longest run was 13 yards. After that was Emmanuel Wilson. They gave him a 61 PFF grade. He had 6 attempts for 29 yards, which is 4.8 yards per attempt, which is quite good, including, additionally, he had a touchdown. But just 1.83 yards after contact, which is maybe part of the reason why he was kind of gifted a lot of yards. I don't know. He also had a missed tackle force mixed in. Jordan Love had 1 attempt for 6 yards. He was given a 57 rushing grade. 10 yards after contact per attempt, because obviously this was him scrambling for his life behind the line of scrimmage. And then the offensive line. From left to right, Rasheed Walker, again, earlier they said that he had done pretty well. Looks like he did pretty well down the stretch or in the beginning of the game, and then they massively downgraded him. I don't know if it was the fourth quarter he did poorly or they just were just wrong through the first 3 quarters. I don't know, but they gave him a 65 pass blocking grade and a 59 run blocking grade. Honestly, as much as that doesn't seem impressive, it's not a horrible game for Rasheed Walker. It's probably a better run blocking grade than he usually has. And then his pass blocking, instead of like a 71, he got a 65 or whatever. So it's not good. I mean, you'd rather a better pass blocking performance, but it is what it is. Elton Jenkins did have a good day, at least for part of the game. 71 overall, 64 run blocking, 81 pass blocking. He didn't allow a single sack, hit, or hurry. So even early on, you can't really be upset with him. Josh Myers was the exact opposite. 65 run blocking is a good day for him, but he had a 43 pass blocking grade. He gave up a sack, a hit, and 2 hurries. I mean, that's just dog crap, man. And some of this might be PFF getting it wrong. They're running their who knows what the assignment is supposed to be, but regardless, this is dog crap, and it's really frustrating because we all saw a lot of times when guys got right to Jordan, and you're going, how does this happen? And then you see this from Josh Myers, and you go, you bastard, you dirty, smelly, stinky person. Sean Ryan had a 77 pass blocking grade. He did give up 1 sack, but that was it. No other hits or hurries for the game. 51 run blocking grade, and then Zach Tom doing Zach Tom stuff. They did credit him with a sack and 2 hurries, but still gave him a 72 pass blocking grade and a 76 run blocking grade. So there you go. Let's take a break. We'll come back, look at the defense, and we'll see where we go from there. We'll be right back. All right, folks, defense it is. On the negative side, Keyshawn Nixon, 51, Slayton, 48, Colby Wooden, 48, Eric Wilson, 47, Aaron Mosby, 41, Javon Bullard, 37, Kingsley Enigbare, 37. On the positive side, I mean, with some rounding, there are 3. Carl Brooks with a 69, Edgerrin Cooper with an 80, and Devontae Wyatt with a 92. The big downgrade for Edgerrin Cooper, by the way, was coverage. They decided that he was, in retrospect, terrible. They must have actually changed around who was some of the responsibilities, because this is a lot more targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns than he had as of yesterday. But all right, let's go through each and individual one here. So run defense, the negative side, Bullard 53, Van Ness 52, Slayton 47, Wooden 47, Valentine 45, Brenton Cox 43, Mosby 34. I guess, well, obviously Mosby had just 12 snaps on the day, so that's a factor. Tackling, the negatives, Rashawn Gary, Carrington Valentine. Everybody else mostly pretty positive, but especially Xavier McKinney and Javon Bullard was actually the highest graded tackler on the team, so that's worth something, I guess. Pass rush, the only real negatives, Eric Wilson, 51, Enigbare, 49. He was awful. Positive side, Mosby, 73, McKinney, 75, Cooper, 82, and Wyatt with an 88. Wyatt, of course, only played, and it gets even worse when you actually look at his stats. They decided that actually he played a lot better than what they had said yesterday. We'll get to that, but man, did we need him in that game. And then coverage was mostly terrible. The only positive was Carrington Valentine with a 71. On the negative side, Keyshawn with a 50, Cooper 47, Wilson 42, Bullard 41, and Kingsley was in coverage 7 times, had a 29 coverage grade. Stokes, for those wondering, had a 63, so not the worst. All right. Pressure numbers. To be clear, by the way, there's a lot of there was no pressure in this game. There's 20 pressures in the game. That's not necessarily great, and they certainly did better the last 2 weeks, but I think if you look at this period of time where the defense has played a lot better, it's on par or better than all but 2 or 3 games. So I think a lot of it had to do with, number one, there was just the 1 sack, and that stands out. You know, if you have one of the games they had, I want to say it was 22 pressures, which is almost the exact same thing, but they had 6 sacks in the game, so nobody's going to complain about that, which really comes down a lot to the Vikings. How impactful 20 pressures has to do a lot with how the quarterback handles it. If he's able to evade pressures and it doesn't allow it to turn into a sack, that's a big deal. If he's able to throw under pressure an accurate pass to receivers that don't drop stuff, it looks a lot different. If we're seeing guys get close to the quarterback and it's affecting the quarterback, that's going to stick out and remind as a positive, as opposed to this situation where he was pretty unaffected. But with that said, guys with 10 or more pass rush opportunities that didn't get any pressures. Lucas Van Ness, 13 attempts, 0 pressures. Edgerrin Cooper, 10 attempts, 0 pressures. That's crazy. That's really crazy. They gave him an 82 pass rush grade, but, these guys are usually, if they rush the passer 4 times, I would expect them to get home at least once. 10 pressures, 0 attempts for a linebacker is pretty wild. Colby Wooden, 16 attempts, 0 pressures. Kingsley, 20 attempts, 0 pressures. And Slayton, 13 attempts, 0 pressures. Also, Eric Wilson, 6 attempts, 0 pressures. Again, for a linebacker, that's crazy. To have 16 combined attempts by Wilson and Cooper and to not get to the quarterback once is very uncharacteristic. McKinney had 2 attempts and got home once. Keyshawn had 3 attempts, got home once. Mosby had only 6 attempts and got there twice. That's fantastic. Rashawn Gary, 2 pressures on 26 attempts is not good enough. Carl Brooks, 2 pressures on 21 attempts, plus a sack is, in my opinion, perfectly fine. Kenny Clark, 4 pressures on 30 attempts. I'm sure nobody remembers that. I'm seeing a whole lot of Kenny disappeared. I mean, not really. Brenton Cox had 4 pressures on 17 attempts, which is absolutely psychotically good. And then Devontae Wyatt had 4 pressures on 10 attempts. 4 pressures on 10 attempts. That's ridiculous. 1 sack, again, coming by way of Carl Brooks. The missed tackles, nobody had more than 1, but Wilson, Gary, Valentine, Nixon, McDuffie, and Cooper each missed 1. Stops, Edgerrin Cooper had 6, which is great. Nobody else had more than 3. And then targets. This is via PFF again, NFL Pro and all these other things. They have different metrics, but Keyshawn Nixon was the most targeted, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 55 yards, and a pass breakup. Then they have Cooper, and they put him down for 7 targets, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. That would mean he's one of only 2 guys to give up touchdowns, and he gave up the most yards of anybody in this game. Now, I'm going to go ahead and refuse to believe that until I see it with my own eye, but it is what it is. After that is Bullard, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Thanks a lot. Carrington Valentine, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 43 yards, and an interception. Wilson, 5 targets, 4 receptions, 60 yards. McKinney, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 40 yards. Stokes, 2 targets, 1 reception, 4 yards. I mean, Stokes he's given up like 20 yards in 4 games. It's ridiculous. Van Ness, 1 target, 1 reception, 6 yards. Kingsley, 1 target, 1 reception, 6 yards. Now, to be clear, this doesn't necessarily mean they dropped into coverage. There are other, I mean, you could be chasing a guy. You know, after a play breaks down, you kind of run after the quarterback and he throws it over your head. The PFF will probably call that a coverage. I don't know, but there's the stats for you. Passer ratings, when targeted, the highest or the worst, 158.3 Cooper, 156.3 Bullard, 116.7 Wilson, 106.3 Xavier McKinney, everybody else below 100. I'll tell you what, let's take a break here. We'll come back and we'll dabble in some of the next-gen stats. We'll be right back. All right, a couple of the stats that we didn't get. We've got, for example, CPOE, completion percentage over expected. Jordan Love actually positive 2.8%. Again, a lot of that probably down the stretch, but negative 1.3 EPA. He said he was pressured 32.4%, which, interestingly enough, Sam Darnold was pressured 36.4%. So, again, not really that there wasn't any pressure generated, just that they weren't able to do anything with the pressure. They either couldn't get to the quarterback or just affecting him didn't matter. Making him move, making him scramble, making him throw under duress didn't matter. What percentage of the passes were deep passes? 10%. Sam Darnold, 9.3%. They had him blitzed 56% of the time. I don't know how you can't get blitzing statistics down. I mean, isn't it pretty straightforward what a freaking blitz is? I don't know. Tight window throws. Sam Darnold just 9.3%. Jordan Love 20%. Rush yards over expected. Josh Jacobs was -6. Emmanuel Wilson +3. Jordan Love -2. Rush EPA -5 for Josh Jacobs. +2.1 for Emmanuel Wilson. As far as how often he had to face a stacked box, just 11.8%. Emmanuel Wilson was almost 17%. Successful runs, 47% for Josh Jacobs, 50% for Emmanuel Wilson. Then we get to the receiving. Catch rate over expected. Malik Heath, positive almost 60%. Bo Melton, 27.7. Dontavian Wicks, 23% over expected. And Luke Musgrave, 19.3%. Romeo Doubs was -4.1. Tucker, -15.4. Jaden Reed, -32%. EPA, Romeo 3.2, tied with Tucker Kraft, actually, tied with Dontavian Wicks. All three of them were 3.2 EPA. Malik Heath 1.1, Bo Melton 0.5. On the negative end, Luke Musgrave -1, Jaden Reed -6.9. Yards after the catch over expected, Tucker 27 yards, Romeo 4 yards, Bo Melton -2 yards. They seriously not have drops on here? I guess that's what catch rate over expected is about, right? And then looking at the defense, they actually had Edgerrin Cooper at 8 stops instead of 6. Still led the team by quite a bit. Eric Wilson was next with 4. Hustle plays, they had Edgerrin Cooper leading the team with 2s. I believe that is a stop that is, you have to travel a certain distance. Gary, McKinney, McDuffie, Carl Brooks, Carrington Valentine, Javon Bullard, each with 1. Pressure percentage. They had Rashawn Gary at 7.7%, Van Ness at 9.1%, so they didn't have him at 0. Carl Brooks, 9.5%, Kenny, 10%, Cooper, 11%, again, didn't have him at 0 either. Brenton Cox, 13.3%, Wilson, 20%, Mosby, 25%, so PFF said Mosby was garbage. Next Gen Stats says 25% of his attempts got home. Devontae Wyatt, 33%. They gave him 3 pressures on 9 attempts. Pretty close. Keyshawn Nixon, 33%. Xavier McKinney, 100%, 1 of 1. They had TJ Slayton, 0 of 13 attempts. Kingsley Enagbare, 0 of 21 attempts. Colby Wooden, 0 of 15 attempts. And as far as the targeting and whatnot, they were much more flattering of Edgerrin Cooper, which, again, I choose to believe. Keyshawn Nixon, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 74 yards. Eric Wilson, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 92 yards. Javon Bullard, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think that's almost identical, if not exactly, to what PFF said. Valentine, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 28 yards, and a pick. Edgerrin Cooper, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards, 0 touchdowns. McKinney, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 18 yards. Stokes, 2 targets, 1 reception, 22 yards. Slayton, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 16 yards. Clark, 1 target, 1 reception, 9 yards, and that's it. So they have Stokes. Where is Stokes? Oh, yeah, 2 targets, 1 reception, 22 yards for Stokes. Their quick pressure metric, who got to the, getting to the quarterback quickly, only 2 of them, both of them were Devontae Wyatt, and again, he only rushed the passer 9 times in this game. Ridiculous. Catch rate over expected, negative is better. Edgerrin Cooper, minus 14% catch rate over expected. So, again, they get a pretty good day. Keyshawn Nixon was the only other one that was negative 4.5%. Then you got Stokes, 1.5%, Slayton, 5.9%, Valentine, 6.8%, Eric Wilson, 12.6%, Bullard, 29.2%, and Xavier McKinney, 31.8%. EPA, the only one that was good or negative was Carrington Valentine, minus 6.7. Then you've got, we'll skip all the nonsense. Edgerrin Cooper was positive just 1. Stokes 2.2. Wilson 4.3. Nixon 4.5. And Bullard 8.8. Average separation. McKinney was the lowest at 2.1. Valentine 2.6. Stokes 3.6. Nixon 4.4. Cooper 5.1. Bullard 5.3. Eric Wilson 5.4. Tight windows forced. Valentine 16.7. Keyshawn 20%, Stokes 50%, nobody else had anything. Hawk percentage, ball hawking percentage, Keyshawn Nixon 10%, Valentine 16.7%. And I think that's about it. That's interesting here. Dare we go through some of these insights? We'll be selective, but I think we need to. Sam Darnold completed 33 of 43 passes for a career-high 377 yards with 3 touchdowns and an interception. Thanks a lot, Bullard. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it, okay? I'm going to keep doing it, so deal with it. Vikings played man coverage 47% of the dropbacks, second highest rate in the game this season, including 11 of 13. Let me ask you a question, and this is compliments of my half-Mexican attorney. Why do you think they played man coverage way more than they usually do? I have a theory. It's because Christian Watson wasn't in the game. They weren't threatened. That's what happens when you lose Christian Watson. So all this, we need to go out and get a receiver. You're right. We do need another receiver. His name is Christian Watson. That's what we need. He's the guy that's going to make you hurt if you're going to play man coverage across the board. The other one would be Romeo Doubs, and he, didn't do well, and Dontavian Wicks. They didn't do anything until the fourth quarter, so why would they change it? Says this is a notable change in strategy for Brian Flores' defense, which played man coverage on a season low 10.7% of dropbacks in week 4. By the way, I don't remember if I told you this or I just observed it. The other reason they're playing a lot of man coverage, Jordan Love is, I think I saw this on Twitter, he's like the number 1 quarterback in zone coverage. He is terrible in man coverage. That could be a function of his receivers. I'm just telling you, when you go into it and you see that, you're going to play man coverage a lot. So, it's very similar to like Jordan Love was terrible against the blitz early in the season. And so what happened? He got blitzed a ton until he figured it out. They got to figure it out. Matt LaFleur, the receivers, Jordan Love, whatever it is, If you can't beat man coverage, you're going to see a lot of man coverage, and that's just the way it's going to go. Jonathan Grenard led the Vikings pass rush with a season-high 8 pressures. Of course it's a season high. Everybody just breaks records today. Actually, I think that's about it. There was a ton here, but a lot of these are previews. The only other one here is Jordan Love completed 5 of 6 passes against the blitz for 54 yards and a touchdown on the Packers' final drive of the game after completing 13 of 23 passes for 118 yards overall across the Packers' first 9 drives. Love was blitzed on 19 of his 34 dropbacks, resulting in his second highest blitz rate faced in a game this season. And the Packers couldn't handle it, bottom line. So, I mean, a lot of this moving forward is going to be expect everyone to do it. Can you beat it? And yes, Christian Watson's going to help a lot, but also we're going to have to be able to pick up the blitzes, which, again, the offensive line statistically did a decent enough job with that. When you're blitzed 75% of the time, they picked up most of those. The other thing is, when you're playing man coverage, your receivers have to separate, and then Jordan has to throw really accurate passes, which is the other thing. Because I think Jordan Love does a good job of getting it close enough to where you technically should have got it, but not super pinpoint. Like if you're talking about perfect throw, good throw, catchable throw, I think Jordan Love excels in the catchable range, which is where there's so much frustration and conflict between Packers fans. It's like when I was always watch football with my grandpa, we would always argue about great throw, great catch. What a throw. That was a great catch. That was a pretty good throw, though. Yeah, but I mean, it was a great catch. Just stupid stuff. Because both of them were true. Similarly, again, it's true. Should have caught it. Yeah. Should have been a better ball, though. Yeah, but he should have caught it. I know. But throw it better. Well, maybe he should catch it. Well, frickin' throw it better. But it does get tough when you're talking man coverage, right? Because it's a lot easier when there's wide open vacated zones and Jordan can just throw into that zone and the receiver can go catch it. It's a lot more difficult when you got a guy kind of stride for stride with somebody and you have to put it just right in that pinpoint spot. And because you're being blitzed, you're doing it under duress. It's a much more difficult thing to do. And the Packers are not excelling at that right now. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.